Hello, everybody. So today I'm going to be looking at things that an attorney would look at, or that I would look at, if I were to bring motions to suppress based on the match or DNA match between Brian Koberger's father and the DNA match to the DNA that was on the sheath. And I'm just going to focus for now on the DNA that was obtained by the father that was in the trash or unspecified trash. So, to refresh everybody's recollection, and just to refresh my recollection, I'm going to go to the probable cause affidavit that talks about the DNA that they obtained from the trash. So, let me share the screen here. Okay, so this is Exhibit A, which is the statement of Brett Payne. And then I believe on page 19, that's at the end. There it is. Okay, so it says that on December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Koberger residence located in Albrights, Pennsylvania. That evidence, the trash, was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. So it was sent on December 27, 2022. So Pennsylvania is a long ways away from Idaho State. So it doesn't say how the evidence or the trash was sent. So then it says on December 28, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of suspect profile. So one of the things I want to look at is what the Idaho State Lab does in terms of receiving evidence. Like, how is the evidence tracked? Because they have to have a tracking system. And also the chain of custody. How does that work? So the other thing I wanted to know about was the turnaround time from the time the lab gets the evidence or the trash from Pennsylvania, the turnaround time from the time they get it to the time they have results of the DNA test. Now, I understand that the DNA test might not take that long, but I'm just looking at the general turnaround time. Because if the turnaround time is something like 40, 60 days, but for some reason, in this case, there was a rush put on it, then there would have to be indications, paperwork, something indicating that it was a rush. And so they put it in priority of everything else that they have. So I did some digging, and let me tell you or show you what I found. Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen here. And so what I found was the lab, and I'll put links to this in the description box. But what I found was the procedures for the Idaho State Lab. Evidence procedures for the Idaho State Lab. And I'm going to go down to page 7. Okay, so here is evidence procedures, receiving evidence. So under 1.2, it says the Idaho State Police Forensic Laboratories uses the BEAST ILMS, which is a barcoded evidence analysis statistical tracking. So that is scanned. It's a barcode scan. So everything that they receive from anywhere, it could be any agency, it has to be, the evidence has to be scanned. So it says, last sentence, this is used in conjunction with the pre-log system utilized by the agencies to submit evidence. So it doesn't matter what agency that is submitting the evidence, it just has to be scanned. So, the FBI or Pennsylvania police, whoever submitted this or sent the trash that they obtained on December 27th, they sent it to the Idaho State Lab. So once it got there, it needed to be scanned. So there should be an electronic print of when this evidence got there. So those are the things I would want to be looking at to see if they followed the proper procedures, to get the trash to compare it with the DNA on the sheath. And again, the sheath DNA was trace evidence. So they would have to compare the father's DNA or the DNA that was found on the trash. I mean, we don't know what trash it was. It was just a bunch of trash. I don't know if it was a sticker or some kind of wrapper, whatever. There has to be a scan, electronic print, okay? So on page 8, there's a service request. And it says under 4.3.1.1, all 3 of the ISPFS labs do not perform every type of analysis. If an item is received for analysis in a lab that does not perform the analysis being requested, check the pre-log form to make sure the information for submission is correct. Then I'm going to skip that the next sentence. And then it says, for all biology evidence received at either Coeur d'Alene or Pocatello, a call should be made to Meridian Lab before accepting the case. I don't know why that is. I have no idea. In any event, then there's the 4.4 review chain of custody. So there's a whole procedure, and I'm not going to go over it, but I'll put the link if you guys want to go over it. There's a whole procedure that involves the chain of custody. And also there's a whole deal about evidence seals. So there's quite a bit that the Idaho State Lab would have to make sure is in place before they accept the evidence. So now, knowing the little bit that I do about the Idaho State Lab accepting evidence and knowing that it's scanned with a barcode, in other words, there's this label with a scan and they scan it. So there's electronic evidence that this trash from Pennsylvania came to the Idaho State Lab. Okay, so now I want to know about the turnaround time. Like, how long does it take the lab generally to test DNA or biological materials like from the trash? So now I'm going to show you what I found. And let's see if I can put this up. So I'll put the link to this. This is all public record. So now they talk about the ISPFS evidence analysis turnaround, and this is from the Idaho State Police. So this is the turnaround time. and it lists the services: alcohol, volatiles, breath alcohol, controlled substance, biology screening, sexual assault kits, DNA database, and so on. And it goes to latent print comparison and urine toxicology. Okay, so this was data as of 9/3/24. So as of 9/3/24, the average turnaround goal in days, this is the goal, was for DNA testing was 30. Currently, and we're talking as of 9/3/24, the turnaround time for DNA was 64 days. Now, we don't know what it was back in November or December of 2022. But it looks like every 4 years, they say 2020, and it talks about wait a second. Cases completed. No, they don't. So let's see. It talks about the cases completed and the number of items, but it doesn't talk about the turnaround time. So the only turnaround time that we have is for as of 9/3/2024. So one of the things that I would want to know is if in December 27th or 28th, whenever the trash was received by the lab, what the turnaround time was for testing DNA. So here it talks about the goals and the current turnaround time in 9/3/24. So then I would want to know what it was back then. And they should have records for that. So that's what I would want to know. And if the turnaround time was something like 64 days, why was this one done immediately? Because it had to have been done immediately, because they sent the trash in some unknown form in some unknown way, because it doesn't say in the PCA how they sent it. They sent it and it got to the Idaho State Lab, and apparently it should have been scanned. There should be an electronic print of it and what happened to it. And then they tested it, and immediately that same day or the next day, depending on when they received it, December 28th, they had a match. So there would have to be some kind of documentation and priority as to why this was given, this turnaround time was so quick. So that's what I would be looking for. I'd be looking for all of these things to find out if they followed the procedure, and if the turnaround time was 64 days or 30 days, why was this one done so fast? And did they follow the procedures to do it quickly, like priority wise? And I think, let me see, I think there is a priority. Let me see. Yeah, let me share this. Let me share it. Let me see if I can do that. Sorry about that. Yeah, here it is. The only thing that I found in these procedures, I did a search, and the only thing I found in these procedures is under 4.7.14. It says, if receiving for another lab, hold can be entered in the priority box on the assignments tab using the drop down. So I assume that there is, sorry about that. I assume that there's like a drop down box that can be checked as to what the priority is. So I would also be looking for that if they did that. Checked it so that it could be tested right away, because they got the results right. Like, they sent it, they're in Pennsylvania, they got the trash, they sent it to the Idaho State Lab, and then the next day or the day of receipt, because we don't know when it was received, they had a match. So those are the things I would be looking at to make sure that they followed the policy. And they should have that, because according to their standards or procedures, any evidence that comes in is scanned. So that automatically creates a print. So anyway, that's at least my understanding. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.